Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy JC here, and I'm doing a second installment on the greatest rugby teams to have ever graced the field, and I've had the privilege of watching. Now, remember, in these videos, I'm touching on teams I've seen in my lifetime and mostly the professional era of the game. Okay. My previous video, I've done the All Black team from 2010 to 2016. Now, in this installment, I will also say that the team that I chose here, this list would be completely wrong without including them. I am touching on the English team between the year 2000 and year 2003. Now, what these two teams, England from this video and the All Blacks from my previous video, have in common, funny enough, is a great captain with a great relationship with his number 10. Now, number 10 is mostly Marshall, the backline. Now, it's a Martin Johnson and Jonny Wilkinson classic. Now, this English team, people attribute Jonny Wilkinson. Now, people forget this English team had Jason Robertson in them as well. You had Jonny Wilkinson, you had Martin Johnson, you had Lawrence Delalio, and you actually had a great captain in Sir Clive Woodward. Clive Woodward was, people make fun of him now with his remarks, but you can't deny the fact that Clive Woodward marshaled this English team into being the only Northern Hemisphere team to win a World Cup. Now, that was 20 years ago. And what makes this English team, beyond the things that I'm going to look at here, this English team, firstly, beat South Africa, Australia, and the All Blacks. Okay. If I look at the fixtures over here, funny enough, South Africa was the only team to have a win over this English team in this period. Okay, and that was in the early days. It was at 1813 win at Loftus. Now, the win ratio for this English team in this period was 42 wins from 47 matches for 89% win ratio. Okay. Now, let's go and start at the year 2000. Everything starts with the Six Nations. Okay. Notable results from that Six Nations. England won the Six Nations and only lost to Scotland in the end. Okay, but their notable wins were a 50-18 opening victory over Ireland. They also beat France 15-9, and they eventually won the Six Nations, only losing 19-13 to Scotland at the end. Okay. Here we go to the June tour against South Africa. England lost their first match of that tour, and that was actually the only game that they lost against the Southern Hemisphere Big Three. They lost 18-13 to the Springboks, but returned the favour a week later at the same stadium, 27-22, when they beat the Boks. And that kicked off a bloody near unstoppable force. Okay. In the end of year tour, they gone 3 from 3. They beat funny enough, they beat the World Cup champions, Australia. Australia were also at that point world champions, Tri-Nations champs, and British Cup champs. Okay. They beat Australia 22-19. They would then go on to also beat Argentina 19-0 and then beat the Box 25-17. Okay. That year they only played 10. They won 8 of the 10 games for 80% win ratio. Funny enough, that was their worst year in this period. Okay. Now, what was notable in that year was England. Was the year that England announced themselves as a force. Okay. Now, mostly in rugby, people talk about the Southern Hemisphere dominance. Okay. At that time, your Southern Hemisphere dominating nations were New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. Okay. Australia being the world champions and coming out of a period where they were seen as the top rugby team in the world. Australia dominated the 90s, winning the 91 World Cup and 99 World Cup. Okay? Team of the decade in the 90s, for sure. And England beat them. Now that scoreline, 22-19, it's a slender margin, but why that win for the English was so significant was because at that point, Australia were coming out of a period where they dominated the 90s. They won, and then in that same year, they won the Tri-Nations, and the year prior, they won the World Cup. Okay. I'm also, before I carry on, I'm going to tell the story about this English team. 99 World Cup, South Africa looked shite. South Africa's best performance was actually losing effort against the Wallabies. Throughout the group stage, South Africa were unconvincing. Coming out the group stage undefeated, beating Uruguay, Spain, and Scotland, but all those results were unconvincing. Then in the quarterfinals, England were highly favoured, and I believe this quarterfinal set England up, put England's plans with the drop goals and Jonny Wilkinson into motion. Jannie de Beer slotted 5 drop goals to win the quarterfinal for South Africa. Now, England quarterfinal exit coming into this year and literally having only losing 2. Well done. Now we move on to the year 2001. Okay. 2001 start off with a bang. England winning 6 Nations again. Also only losing 1 game in that entire 6 Nations. England beat, notable results, England beat Scotland 43-3. They hammered the French 48-19 and they only lost to Ireland 2014. Okay. Going 4 from 5. Mid-year internationals weren't really significant. England beat Canada twice and beat USA once. Now we go to the end of year tour. Notable. England beat South Africa again, 29-9. It was awful, by the way. They beat Australia 21-15 and they got their biggest ever win in rugby history with a 134-0 win over Romania. Coming out of there, with a 90% win ratio with 10 out of 11 wins. Okay. 2002. A very dark year in South Africa rugby history, by the way. 2002. England's only loss in the 6 Nations came to France. Okay, England didn't win the 6 Nations this year, France did, but you know what? It is what it is. You can't win them all, even if you're the greatest team at that point, in that time. England's wins in the 6 Nations include 29-3 win over Scotland, 45-11 win over Ireland, and a notable victory over their 50-10 win over Wales. Now note, England's only loss came against the 6 Nations Grand Slam winners France. Mid-year test, England only had 1 game, the 26-18 win over Argentina. November internationals, England got a win of the All Blacks 31-28. Now I think that win over there really put England in as a top team in that era. Okay, a 32-31 win over Oz, and at that time a biggest ever victory over South Africa, 53-3 at Twickenham. At that point, that was a record. South Africa's biggest defeat in rugby history. For England went 8 wins out of 9 for 89% win ratio. Now 2003, this year will always go down in history. You know what? You don't have to support England to know this year was a historical year. You know, you don't have to like them, but there is absolutely no team that would have beaten England in this World Cup. Okay. 2003, England got a Six Nations Grand Slam. The 25-17 win over the French. England practically dominated the Six Nations. Then you have to also put the 49 victory over Scotland. Media tests, England beat both Australia and the All Blacks away from home. They beat the All Blacks in New Zealand and they beat Australia in Australia. Okay, 15-31 of the All Blacks and 25-14 win of Oz. You look at the World Cup warm-ups. England's only loss here came against France, 17-16. But they returned the favour with a 45-14 win over the French. And we're going to the World Cup. England opened the World Cup with an 84-6 win over Georgia, 25-6 win over the Box, a 35-22 win over Samoa, 111-13 win over Uruguay, 28-17 win over Wales, a 24-7 win over France, and then they won the final 2017 against Australia in Sydney for a 94% win record for that year, winning 16 out of 17 tests, but taking them for that period of time 42 out of 47 wins, 42 wins out of 47 matches at an 89% win record. Now, you cannot make a list of the greatest rugby teams in history without mentioning this English squad. I believe that there are very few rugby teams in history that could actually beat them. You can put an argument through that the All Blacks from 2010 to 2016 would beat them.
Yeah.
I believe that All Black team would, but you would never know. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, like my video, comment your thoughts in the comment section, and do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you guys. Cheers.